Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will present about Parliament, which is the function of Parliament and the composition of the Parliament of the Malaysia. Okay, as we know that Parliament is the legislative authority for the Federation and it enacts laws to be enforced nationwide. And Parliament has its function that pass federal laws and makes amendments to existing federal laws, examine the government policies, approve the government expenditures, and approve new taxes. And Parliament also serves as the forum to discuss matters of public interest, and the Constitution uh, confers certain rights and legal immunities under parliamentary privilege to members of Parliament. And in the Parliament, there were two houses, which is Houses of Senate, which is called by Dewan Negara, and House of Representative, which is called by Dewan Rakyat. Today I will discuss about Dewan Negara. A brief. Okay. As we know that there were 70 members, or we call as senators, or known in Malay, which is Ahli Dewan Negara. Okay. 26 members was elected by the State Legislative Assembly, and then 44 members appointed by YDPA, including 4 who are appointed to represent federal territories. Okay. Just a little bit review about under qualification and disqualification if you want to be a Dewan Negara members. This first, candidate must be a Malaysian citizen at least 13 years old, must not owe allegiance to any foreign state, must not be fined 2,000 ringgit or more, must not have received a prison sentence of 1 year or longer. The process of appointment is set out according to the Article 45 of Federal Constitution. This will be reviewed more by Nurul Johana and Iman. Okay, and this is just a little bit review of function of Dewan Negara, and it will be discussed more by Khalisa in the next video. And I just pick out the several function of Dewan Negara, which is Dewan Negara can revise, improve, or delay Dewan Rakyat bills, has an exclusive control over its own proceeding, and empowered to regulate its own procedure. And then the other one will be discussed more by Khalisa in the next video. Thank you for listening.
Next, let's see what is the composition of the parliament in the Dewan Rakyat. The Dewan Rakyat is a directly elected body consisting of 222 members, which is known as Member of Parliament. They are elected through general election by the citizens. The members will hold their seats in the parliament until the Dewan Rakyat is dissolved, in terms of which is constitutionally limited to 5 years after an election, while for the number of seats each state and territory is entitled to is limited to Article 46 of the Federal Constitution. This provision stated that the Dewan Rakyat has 222 members, which 209 of Member of Parliament are from the states of Malaysia, which is consisting 26 representative from Johor, 15 representative from Kedah, 14 from Kelantan, 6 from Melaka, 8 from Negeri Sembilan, 14 from Pahang, 13 from Penang, 24 from Perak, 3 from Perlis, 25 from Sabah, 31 from Sarawak, 22 from Selangor, and 8 from Terengganu. Apart from that, there must be 11 representatives from Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur and 1 each from Federal Territory of Putrajaya and Labuan respectively. So the total must be 222 members of Parliament in the Dewan Rakyat. So in the current seats in the Parliament, they are 112 seats provided for the government and 109 seats for the opposition and 1 seat for the confidence and supply, which is set by the independent politician. So now we know the composition of the Dewan Rakyat and both houses. Next, let's see what is the qualification required to become a member of parliament.
Alright, now we will explain about the qualification of member for Dewan Negara and Dewan Rakyat. Firstly, Dewan Negara. Members of Dewan Negara or Senate are referred to as senators or ahli Dewan Negara. To be qualified as a member, a person must be a Malaysian citizen residing in Federation and at least 30 years of age, and must not owe allegiance to a foreign state, and must not have been fined 2,000 or more, and must not receive a prison sentence of 1 year or longer, and not be an undischarged of bankrupt. Next, Dewan Rakyat. Members of Dewan Rakyat are referred to as members of parliament or ahli Dewan Rakyat. To be qualified as a member, a person must be a Malaysian citizen, at least 21 years of age, and not concurrently a member of Dewan Negara, and absent any of these qualifications as stated in Article 48 of Federal Constitution.
For the last presenter, so I would like to continue about the disqualification of the membership in the parliament. So it is according to the Article 48 Clause 1 of our federal constitution, and from it lists 6 conditions that lead to the disqualification of the membership in the parliament. So we move to the first one. The person found or declared to be of unsound mind. So we know that we need an intelligent person or a smart leader to lead this country. So when he found to be an unsounded mind, so it will lead to his disqualification from the being a member of the parliament. So the second one, the person is undischarged bankrupt. So whoever found to be a bankrupt person or he lost his property, he cannot be the member again. Cannot be the member of the parliament again. The next one, the person holds an office or profit, and then the person has been elected to either House of Parliament or to the Legislature Assembly of a state, or having performed as election agent to an elected person, he has failed to lodge any return of election expenses required by law within the time and in the manner so required. So from this sentence, it explains that anyone from the member of the parliament who joined the elections either by the House of Parliament or by the legislature, and or he is an agent of anyone who is elected in the election, but he failed to show or he failed to bring the expenses that he used in the election, so he cannot be the member of the parliament again. And then the person convicted of an offence by a court of law in federation and sentenced to imprisonment for a term of not less than 1 year. So the due of the imprisonment is not less than 1 year, or to a fine less than 2,000 ringgit, or has not received a free pardon. And the last one, he has voluntarily acquired citizenship of or exercised right of a citizenship in a foreign country, or has made a declaration of allegiance to a foreign country. So that we know that when a person from the member in the parliament has his citizenship in another country by his voluntarily, or he has his exercise right, or he made any declaration of the citizenship from another country, he will be considered as disqualified from being a member of parliament.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Today we will discuss on the functions of the parliament. My first point is the function of the parliament is control over finances. Under Article 62, 66 to 68 and 73 to 79, taxes cannot be raised, army cannot be maintained, and the money cannot be spent without the authority of the parliament. Money for government programs must come from Parliament. These functions belong to both houses. However, there are some exceptions, which is money bills must originate in the Dewan Rakyat. By the way, the Dewan Rakyat can bypass the Dewan Negara on money bills after 30 days. The Public Accounts Committee is a Dewan Rakyat committee, emphasizing the Dewan Rakyat preeminent role in the raising and spending money. Plus, the Parliament must remain conscious and informed about matters of national expenditure through the Dewan Rakyat's Public Account Committee (PAC). The committee relies heavily on the Auditor General's annual admonishment of departments that fail to live up to financial prudence. How effective the Auditor General and the PAC are in enforcing financial prudence is, however, a matter of a great debate. Okay, next is redress of grievances, which is members of Parliament are not only legislator but also social worker, problem solvers, and the spokespersons for their areas. Some of them spend a large amount of time on particularized demands of their constituents, scrutiny of emergency powers, and emergency proclamations and all emergency ordinances are required to be laid before both houses of Parliament, and Article 150, Clause 3 empowers the houses to annul proclamations or an ordinance. So, my third point in the function of the Parliament is electoral boundaries. Under the 13th Schedule, Part 2, Section 10 to 11, the ultimate power to approve the Election Commission periodic recommendation on constituency lines belong to the Dewan Rakyat. So my fourth point is the Malay Reserve. A state enactment to the reserve a Malay reservations does not become law unless approved by the resolution of each House of Parliament. And then my fifth point and my last point is parliamentary privileges. In the performance of their parliamentary functions, all members and officers of Parliament are entitled to some privileges, immunities, and powers under Article 53, 62, and 63 of the Federal Constitution, and the Houses of the Parliament Privileges and Powers Act 1952. Lately, questions have arisen whether these powers are subject to judicial review. In relation to all the above functions, Parliament's institutional efficiency remains very weak because of the existence of the omnipotent executive. Far-reaching reforms are therefore needed if the Constitution dreams of a Parliament that is countervailing force to be executive is to be realised.
First, representing the people is the function of the Dewan Rakyat, which is elected on a system of universal adult franchise. Malaysia can be proud that since independence, 13 general elections have been held and the electoral exercise has never been delayed. At the same time, we must note that our simple plurality, single-member constituency system that also operates in much of the Commonwealth leads to significant disparities between votes won and seats secured. Second, representing the states, the Dewan Negara gives to each state, whether big or small, equal representation. It has 26 senators, 2 from each state indirectly elected by the state legislatures. Third, representing special groups. The Dewan Negara has 44 senators appointed by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong on the advice of the Prime Minister. These senators are supposed to represent various sectors of the population, including the profession, racial minorities, women, and orang asli, like in the Article 45, Clause 2. Fourth, government's legitimacy. The government's right to rule is derived from its ability to command the confidence of the majority in the Dewan Rakyat, but other cabinet ministers may belong to either house in Article 43, Clause 2. If the PM loses the confidence of a majority of the members of the Dewan Rakyat, then he and his entire cabinet must resign, in the Article 43, Clause 4. And the last function of the Parliament is making laws. In constitutional theory, legislation is the function of Parliament, whether it is an ordinary law under Article 66 to 68, A constitutional amendment under Articles 159 and 161E or an emergency act under Article 150 Clause 5, no legislative proposal can become law without going through the fires of scrutiny in both houses of parliament. Though the Dewan Negara does not have equal powers with the Dewan Rakyat in the legislative process, its constitutional role is to be a second, revision and delaying chamber. This role is largely unrealized. There is no law to prevent the Senate from introducing a bill. The reality that bills always commence their legislative journey in the Dewan Rakyat is a convention, not